All right, welcome to Bet the Edge. I'm Jay Croucher here with Drew Dinsick. We are recording on Tuesday afternoon. Today we're going to talk about Eagles, Ravens, Chargers, Falcons, and Raiders, Chiefs. Let's start off, Drew, with Eagles, Ravens. Ravens are 3-point favorites. The total is 51 flat. Did the Monday night game against the Chargers change your opinion of Baltimore?
It didn't really. It mostly just kind of crystallized my opinion of both of those teams. There are certainly questions about what the Ravens are doing in terms of sustainability, and particularly on the defensive side of the ball. And that secondary, the pass funnel nature of the Ravens was on display last night. It was just that the quality of the receiving options for the Chargers weren't really able to take advantage of it. I know when the dust settles, it looks like a 7-point win for the Ravens. Realistically, more like 14 points because the garbage time touchdown for the Chargers was so penalty assisted. But kind of the reality of the matter is the Chargers got pretty. They had a lot of success against this Ravens secondary early. And then if Quentin Johnson catches a very easy ball to convert a meaningful third down on a game tying drive, then this is potentially a very different game. I think the Ravens offense is still pretty clearly 1B after the Lions right now in terms of top offenses in the NFL, but this Ravens defense is very middling, and the secondary in particular is very susceptible to particularly giving up plays in the deep intermediate portion of the field, or intermediate and deep portion of the field, along the boundaries. And with the two weapons that exist for the passing game for the Eagles and AJ Brown and Devontae Smith, and Jalen Hurts playing interested in attacking those areas of the field, I think this sets up for a pretty tough test for the Ravens. And I think the fact that this moved off of the look ahead from 2.5 to 3 is the wrong direction. I think if anything, the questions and the proof of concept that there are issues with the secondary for the Ravens that comes out of that game is enough for me to say, no, this should be closer to a pick. I think the Eagles are pretty clearly proven at this point, particularly defensively, having taken on a Commanders offense on Thursday Night Football 2 weeks ago and acquitting themselves quite well in that contest, and then coming back against the Rams on Sunday Night Football and pretty much putting a lid on a Rams offense when they had to pull away. This is a good defense, period. It's top 3 right now in terms of EPA per play, whether you consider turnovers or not. That's huge. It's not necessarily aided by playing a bunch of easy or a weak schedule of quarterbacks over the balance of the season. And I think Vic Fangio has these, the talent that he's working with really, really performing quite well. I think that can continue against a Chargers team that is somewhat one-dimensional. Against a Ravens team that I think has shown positive ability to move the ball, but still there was a little bit of issues last night, I thought, with Ravens and really Lamar Jackson's decision making about when to pass and when to run. So I don't know that this is a runaway bet of the week type of thing on the Eagles, particularly as it's kind of coming off of a 3 now. But I do think that the market is reacting in the wrong direction to Monday Night Football.
Do you think that if Philly wins here, Saquon plays well, and then Josh Allen loses to San Francisco, do you think that we wake up Monday morning and Saquon is the MVP favorite?
It's very possible. He's going to have a pretty impressive game. And I actually, if anything, this feels a little sell high on Barkley to me. 4-1. And I guess, again, to credit the great Jay Croucher, it is very clear now that Barkley is the MVP candidate among the Eagles offenses, players. And if the Eagles are to carry on and get a 1 seed in the NFC, Barkley would presumably be the guy getting votes. Now, I still think this is a quarterback dominated award. There will be people who just will vote for the elite quarterbacks no matter what, and give Barkley a relatively a polite nod as fifth, fourth, fifth choice, down ballot type of vote. But I think if he does go bananas against a Ravens defense that is extremely good at defending the run, then yeah, he's right there in the mix to be either the favorite or the co-favorite, depending, of course, on how Josh Allen plays. But no, he's having an amazing season, and this is probably the toughest test though that he's had in a while. So, if anything, I think this is more of a pass-heavy game plan. AJ Brown, Devontae Smith tend to kind of be the stars of the show as opposed to Barkley, who is so instrumental on Sunday.
Yeah, the sneaky thing of the Ravens is that before he got hurt, J.K. Dobbins was kind of killing them on the ground. So perhaps the Ravens' run D, I mean, it's the best in the league statistically.
Well, hey, Roquan Smith wasn't available, and I'm very much expecting him back.
Yep, no, that definitely helps. I think if Barkley, if he can get through this game with a win and with 100 rushing yards, which by his standards would be an underperformance, if he can just get out of this game alive with the win, then it's home Carolina, home Pittsburgh, at Washington, home Dallas, home Giants. So he will come home, I think, with a wet sail if he can get through this game. But he is a dog. It's trending towards a 3-point dog. So it probably... it doesn't necessarily run out. He's not drawing dead if he loses this game, but then he would have to run the slate and guys would have to fall over for him to win at that point, I think. But I think with the MVP market, and we can talk about your Mahomes angle, but I like Barkley a week ago when he was 60-1. Don't like him nearly as much now when he's 4-1. Right. But I think the best bet in the market, like by far, is Lamar at plus 250. Like his price didn't move after he beat the Chargers. That's a massive equity swing in the market. The fact that they were 2.5-point favorites. If they lose, they'd go back into being underdogs for the division. They're 7-5. His case is not dead, but it's on life support, and he probably has to run the slate at that point. The fact that he won, and it wasn't an amazing Lamar game, but not an amazing Lamar game is 3 touchdowns, no picks, and 126 passer rating when you count the touchdown on the ground in there. So I just think that I have no idea why Josh Allen is the favorite over Lamar. It just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And, sometimes I don't really weight my opinion that much to deferring to the MVP market the way that I would weight my opinion towards deferring to a very liquid game line or total. But with the market, like the way that you know that it's not right is that the price didn't move for Lamar after last night, where it just has to move objectively. And I think there's this idea, Drew, that because people like, it's like the Jokic thing when Embiid beat him, where people don't want to vote for Lamar because he's already won 2 and he's never made the Super Bowl. The thing is that in the NBA, stats can be interpreted much more you can interpret them how you want a lot more than in football, I think, when we're comparing 2 quarterbacks. And if the way that this ends up is that the median outcomes from here, Josh Allen is a 2 seed, Lamar Jackson is a 3 seed, Lamar's stats are better than Josh Allen's in every single category imaginable, you can't contort that to vote for Josh Allen. Like, there's just no way to get there. Now, it can change. Lamar could finish 11-6 and stutter a bit, and Allen can surge home, or Allen can get the 1 seed, at which point I do think there is a way for him to overcome the statistical gap. But I think if you just median outcomes from here, the market has Lamar or the Ravens minus 145 to get to 12 wins, which will very likely come with the division. I'm a little less bullish on that, but still minus money. I think if he gets to 12 wins and the Bills don't get the 1 seed, then I think it's done. In terms of that head-to-head at least. But what do you think of Allen Lamar?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And the Josh Allen number not drifting was that's the problematic part of what we just got a bunch of new data, right? And everyone else who's in the mix had the type of performance that should shorten. And that means, by definition, Josh Allen on bye should have drifted, and he didn't. And that's wrong. And he is kind of the current favorite because you remember a million years ago, 2 weeks ago, when he beat the Chiefs, and it was his game-sealing touchdown that effectively iced that game. There was enthusiasm, there was excitement. That is already fading aggressively, and I think the idea that that's going to have any kind of impact in sort of people making a decision one way or the other about who to give the award to at the end of the year is nonsense. It's going to come much more down to your body of work and how you've distinguished yourself and your team's performance as wins. And he's got two problems. Number one, there's a team in his conference that looks likely to get to 15 or 16 wins and beat him out for the 1 seed. And number two, there's a player in his conference in Lamar Jackson who's going to have a much stronger statistical case. And so you're going to have to look past both of those facts if you're going to put him at the top of your ballot. And I think that is absolutely lunacy. And it's kind of where we were last year, where Dak was up there and Purdy was up there and Jalen Hurts was up there. And now I will completely acknowledge Josh Allen has a much stronger pedigree and a much stronger anchoring as a top 2 quarterback in the NFL. Those other guys that were kind of in the mix last year were going to fall more aggressively after they take a loss. The problem is Josh Allen will also fall after he takes a loss at some point. So he needs to sunrun a very difficult schedule these next 3 weeks in order to kind of stay at the top of the board. And I just don't see that coming. Now, the Lamar Jackson case is fascinating to me because there's lots of whiffs of Josh Allen's case from last year, where there is a pretty clear and obvious answer as to who was playing the best, but because he wasn't distinguishing himself with team wins, then there was a reason to doubt him, kind of being the guy. And I think that ultimately the numbers right now for me say only 66% chance that the Ravens win the division. I'm at 98% chance that they make the playoffs, but you could definitely see a pretty clear, if they stub their toe in this game against the Eagles, who are a very tough opponent, very well coached, and have an extra day of rest and preparation, this is going to hurt him. And people are going to look at their schedule. Oh, that's a tough schedule. They're going to have to win out or win. There's going to be a potential where at some point they're going to have to win out to win the division. And it's a more fragile path. And I think that ultimately opens the door for Mahomes to come storming back in. And at a price point of 14-1 right now, I make it better than 10% chance that this Chiefs team just wins out. And then it's going to be very tough to deny a guy who we know to be the best quarterback in the sport, who has 3 Super Bowls, the votes necessary to get a 3rd MVP.
Yeah, I think Mahomes is certainly a very strong default winner if people fall over, particularly if Lamar falls over. I think the difference between Lamar and Allen last year is that Allen led the league in picks, and people just hate interceptions in this award. They overvalue interception. I probably would have voted for Josh Allen last year, but I think it was 29 passing touchdowns, 18 picks, whereas Lamar, 27 touchdowns through the air already, and 3 interceptions. Lamar leads the NFL in QBR, passer rating, EPA. The Ravens, in terms of yards per play, are having the greatest offensive season in NFL history. This is if he just gets to the requisite win total, then I think it's just going to be over. But there are ways that can go south. But I think if he beats Philadelphia and then he wins, it's what are they going to be, home to Pittsburgh to clinch the division probably. They're going to be 6.5 point favorites there. If he just does that double, which is plus 135 or something, I just think it's going to be extremely hard for him to lose from that point because the numbers are just so undeniable. And unlike, Purdy, whose numbers were fairly undeniable last year, Purdy didn't have the pedigree. Lamar Jackson obviously has the pedigree. Sure. So I think with Allen, it's just there's a lot of things that need to go right. He needs Lamar to fall over. I think he probably needs to get the 1 seed. Mahomes, I think Allen's more likely to win than Mahomes, but Mahomes, it's kind of easier. Well, you can see the path where Lamar stumbles a little bit. The gap between Allen and Mahomes is 3 wins, and Mahomes is the 1 seed, and he cleans up his numbers enough. And then Saquon is the kind of wild card where I think that Saquon is the guy who people can probably. The issue with going against Lamar is that people just have to compare Mahomes and Allen and their stats to Lamar's, and Lamar's just going to have better stats. So it's there's kind of no way out. But with Saquon, at least, his stats aren't comparable to Lamar because he plays a different position, obviously. So it's kind of a cleaner way out, particularly if Saquon wins the head-to-head. And that's kind of the good thing about Saquon's case, where if he does beat Lamar this week, then Lamar is kind of, his stats are so good and Burrow's stats are so good too, that those two guys, they kind of block the other quarterbacks a little bit, where it's like, well, we can't vote for Lamar because he's 11-6 and he won last year, and we can't vote for Burrow because his team's going to miss the playoffs most likely. But how do we vote for Allen or Mahomes when their numbers are so much worse? Saquon Barkley, 2,000 rushing yards, and he beat Lamar head-to-head. So I think that is the path for Saquon. But
he's got to get to 2
market.
Too.
Yeah, I think he very likely needs to win this game, but 40% chance, that kind of range.
I guess real quick thought on Lamar.
Sure,
I completely agree, and that he at 250, that is a very, very sound bet. And if he wins this game against the Eagles, like, you're on cruise control until that Pittsburgh game, but you probably should be playing defense on that Pittsburgh game, because a loss to the Steelers creates this echo chamber narrative of he's got a Steelers problem. And does that disqualify him? No, but the way people were talking about him after losing to the Steelers last week is going to be just deafening. And it's going to hurt his MVP case if he loses to the Steelers in that standalone game on Saturday, the 21st.
Yeah, for sure. But they're going to be like touchdown favorites in that game. So I think at that point, you just got to, you take your chances, but if there's another bet to be made at that point. Yeah, I mean, it was the same situation last year with Purdy. Like Purdy, if he probably wins as a 6.5-point favorite against Baltimore on Christmas, then he's probably the MVP. I don't think Lamar Jackson's going to melt to the same extent, but he does seem to have an issue with the Steelers. But I think the Steelers might have shot themselves out of it by then anyway. But we'll see. But yeah, he's got to win the division. He's probably got to win that Steelers game. But I don't think that Lamar is odds on to win MVP. I just don't think he can be plus 250 at this point, when he should be, in my opinion, ahead of Allen and is more likely to win MVP than Allen. All right, it's the second helping of Sunday Night Football this week. Finish your Thanksgiving holiday by watching the Dolphins take on Jordan Love and the Packers at Lambeau Field at 8 p.m. Eastern. Then wrap your weekend up with the 49ers traveling across the country to face Josh Allen and the Bills in Buffalo. Both matchups can only be seen on NBC and Peacock. All right, Chargers-Falcons. Chargers are 1-point favorites in Atlanta. Total is 47.5. This line is kind of an indictment of where the Falcons are at, that they're coming off a bye against the Chargers team that is traveling east on a short week. And is, I guess, a little bit banged up, not overly so, but Dobbins is under some question. Gilman got hurt at the end. Were you surprised that the Chargers opened favorite here?
I was, and I think it's wrong. I think the Falcons are in probably the most beautiful situational spot that they're going to have all season. The extra rest is going to matter. The travel disadvantage for the Chargers is going to matter. The fact that the Chargers have played 2 consecutive primetime games and now have to get ready to kick off for 10 a.m. body clock time for a West Coast team is going to matter. And the Chargers defense, I think, is now kind of proof. We have the proof. When they go up against a good quarterback and an elite set of weapons, they are definitely beatable. And I think that the Falcons can fine-tune some things that were going wrong into their bye week and come out a little bit stronger here. And really, have enough advantages here that I think we're going to see a game that's going to resemble Falcons-Cowboys a lot. And the Falcons are going to be able to generate a lead and play a little bit of keep away here with the Chargers skill position players that are available. And I'm assuming that Dobbins is at a minimum going to miss most of practice this week, if not miss this game. There's just not a lot going on for Chargers skill position players that can do damage to a defense that is beatable, but not so soft that I'm nervous that every drive is going to be successful here for the Chargers. The Chargers have a couple of issues, in my opinion, in terms of their red zone offense right now. It does seem to bog down for them once the field gets shorter and their wide receivers can't create separation. This is probably, at least in my opinion, this is a little bit of a golden spot here for the Falcons, and the fact that you're catching points is pretty sick.
Do you think that there is any scope that the Falcons have fixed their defense somewhat in their bye week, where it's never really made sense why their defense is so bad when they have relatively sound personnel?
I think it's possible. The fact that you're given the guy that's kind of stirred the straw that stirs the drink for them has been Troy Anderson, and he was pert. They brushed him back. He got hurt again. The extra week off. I think he should be back and at full strength for these guys, and I think that'll help. Ellis matters a lot for them as well, and he's definitely could have used some time to get right. I think that certainly there's. If you have a bunch of good skill position players, then you can make the Falcons defense look extremely pedestrian. And we saw that with the Bucks twice. We saw that with the Saints. There's certainly a lot of evidence on their resume this season that suggests that they are gettable. They don't have a very good pass rush. The pass rush wouldn't matter much in this game anyway because the O-line is very solid for the Chargers. So this is much more just about, can you do your job coverage-wise? Can you keep the Chargers run game in mud? And I think that ultimately the answers to those questions are yes. The fact that you have a defensive head coach who is relatively new on the job and gets the extra bye week to kind of do some solving of the problems with his unit, I think will matter. If there's one kind of very good quarterback that you are excited to scheme for on your schedule, it's Justin Herbert and the Chargers, because of the fact that you can feel relatively high confidence that you're going to win 1v1 against their skill position players.
Yep. Quentin Johnston might just be a write-off after what he served up as well on Monday Night Football. At least until he shows that he's over whatever was ailing him mentally in that game, because he looked like Austin Siebert out there in terms of the amount of things that were going through that young man's mind as the ball was just not connecting
going through his
hands. Yeah, indeed.
Yes.
All right, spend your Black Friday with Big Ten on NBC and Peacock. Our triple header starts with a serving of men's basketball at 2:30 p.m. Eastern, followed by women's volleyball at 4:30. The day wraps up with Iowa football hosting Nebraska in primetime.
As you all know by now, we've teamed up with BetMGM this season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all our picks, and we'll have special offers for our listeners each week. If you haven't signed up to BetMGM yet, use bonus code BETEDGE, and you'll get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using bonus code BETEDGE. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your first bet loses. Just make sure you use bonus code BETEDGE when you sign up. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 plus only. U.S. promotional offers not available in New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Available in the U.S. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369 in New York. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP in Arizona, 1-800-327-5050 in Massachusetts, 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa, 1-800-981-0023 in Puerto Rico. First bet offer for new customers only, subject to eligibility requirements. Rewards are non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 7 days in partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code BETEDGE and get your $1,500 first bet offer today.
Okay, let's close out with Raiders Chiefs. Chiefs are 13-point favorites in Arrowhead. The total is 42.5. Does Aiden O'Connell make any difference for you opposed to Gardner Minshew in this one?
I guess, are you 100% sure it is going to be him? I know his practice window is activated, but have you heard if he's like really good to go and looking sharp and they're going to pin their hopes to AOC, or could this be a surprise Ritter performance?
I guess the question kind of stands with different
Doesn't
names.
Matter.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Yeah, wow. It's a very fair question, I guess. I would actually say it does not matter. I don't like anything that the Raiders are doing right now offensively outside of targets to Brock Bowers. And I think in general, the Chiefs defense, which has looked suspect lately, has shown cracks lately, has had a difficult time rushing the passer lately, has had a difficult time manning the CB 2 and 3 positions lately. All of that to me is not necessarily going to be tested with this Raiders offense. The kind of the turnover of play calling duties from Getsy to Turner, I'm not seeing it in terms of schematic advantage at all. And I think in general, the Chiefs defense should be fine here, which is why this kind of a number doesn't really spook me or just get me excited to play the dog. On the flip side, Pat Mahomes' best performance as a passer this year came against this Raiders defense. I think in general, the issues that exist with the Chiefs offense at this point are largely pass protection at the tackle position. I do worry a bit about how much or how many sacks Pat Mahomes is taking lately, particularly against not especially impressive units. But the fact that he is now kind of finding connections with Hopkins more consistently and just in general is feels like this group of weapons, which we were kind of concerned about for a lot of this season, like all of a sudden they all look kind of dangerous. And that might have been because they were going against the Panthers, but they certainly should have a schematic advantage against this Raiders team here. So do the Raiders get up for this game because it is a rivalry, and we have seen them get up for this game in the past, most notably last year when they went to Kansas City and won outright? Maybe. But I think this is a lost season for this team. And I think that the Raiders as a franchise are best served by losing so that they can draft their quarterback of the future. Mahomes, I would expect, really does have the opportunity here to light his candidacy on fire if he can get a win on Black Friday and put up 4 touchdowns and no picks or something along those lines. We've seen him put up some very gaudy numbers against the Raiders in past performances, and it doesn't look to me, at least, like there's any weather to be concerned about that's going to affect the passing game for the Chiefs on Friday. But I would say the hopes for me, at least, is that the Chiefs can turn the light on offensively and keep it on for this last third of the season. I think against some of the better teams that they have left on their schedule, they're going to need to score into the 30s to have a decent chance at getting to 16 wins. But in the world where that happens, which again, I think is more than 10%, my upside intention is to capture Mahomes MVP as we have a squaring of accounts, and he is gifted his third MVP to go along with 3 Super Bowls.
Yeah, indeed. I think if Mahomes runs the slate, I think he's certainly odds on. And then there's worlds where he could win at 15-2 as well. Do you think there's anything like one of Mahomes' superpowers has always been his ability to avoid sacks when under pressure? The fact that he is going down more frequently than he did in the past. Do you think that's just random kind of variance and just, these plays are on the margins and the margins are just going against him? Or do you think there is a kind of material skill change or skill degradation for Mahomes in that particular regard?
I think it has more to do with the sort of the change of what the Chiefs offense is trying to be. We know that in this year in particular, they came in with an intention to be more vertical. Which by definitions means the plays are going to take longer to manifest. And I think that in an effort to kind of play into that, Mahomes is more inclined to stay in the pocket as opposed to either roll out and create with his arm or, is when he is rolling out, sometimes instead of taking the easy 5 yards scamper, he's getting, he's allowing the pressure to get to him. So I think it's more kind of overall him playing within the boundaries of what he's being asked to do, as opposed to, again, with kind of lackluster tackle play. When they had this explosive vertical offense when he was a younger player, the offensive line was all universe, and he had absolutely, he was under pressure at a remarkably low rate. I think ultimately it's got to be worth following, certainly when he's up against teams that are able to generate a consistent pass rush and really make life difficult. And I guess the games that I would circle with the most interest left on their schedule are the Cleveland Browns and the Denver Broncos. When we get those 2 games, if they lose because Mahomes is still taking sacks, then we got a problem. I think the Mahomes MVP campaign is going to rely on him winning, him throwing touchdowns and no picks. It's a delicate balance, but just start preparing yourself for the fact that he's already banked 5 game-winning drives this season, which is 2 better than the next best quarterback in the NFL. And I think 16 wins is going to be tough for people to look past, even if he has a clear and obvious statistical deficit to a player like Lamar Jackson, considering the other parts of the narrative that go along with comparing Lamar Jackson and Pat Mahomes.
Yeah, I have the Chiefs plus 720 to run the slate and get to 16 and 1. And look, he may not need that last game either, because if he's 15 and 1 and he's resting the last game, which I think for the most part that's almost certain to happen, right? Like you'll have nothing to play for if he's 15 and 1. If we assume that the Bills have taken one loss by that time, which they very likely will have. If he gets to 15 and 1, then at that point, that's a very solid case. So yeah, I think certainly at 14 to 1, I think Mahomes is a great bet. I think the two now at price, you go to war with Mahomes 14 to 1, you go to war with Lamar Jackson plus 250. Pretty good horses to go to war with, given they've won 4 of the last however many MVP awards. They do have a tendency to win them, and they are. I think Josh Allen's the second best quarterback in football, but you could certainly make a case for Lamar Jackson there. I would have him third personally, but it is good that the secret with these awards, as it always has been, Drew, the award for best player typically goes to the best player. And Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson are a pretty good chance to be that in the end.
Do you think it's 50-50 if it's a 12-win Ravens with clearly the best stats for Lamar versus a 16-win Mahomes?
Yeah, I mean, 4 wins is such a big gap. I think that might be a coin flip at that point, because Lamar's stats are just going to be so much better. And also, it depends how much Mahomes can clean up his stats. Right now he's 18 touchdowns and 11 interceptions. He quietly made that look a lot more okay with those 3 touchdowns, no picks against the Panthers. If he can get to if he can go 2 touchdowns per game rest of the way, get to 30 passing touchdowns, 14 picks, and be at least 5th in QBR, EPA, then I think the 16 and 1 can do a lot of the carrying of the weight. And
he's kind of 7th and 8th in most of these categories now, and with the rest of the schedule that remains for him, it's there for the taking. And I still bank on the fact that he has 2 standalone games against Pittsburgh and Houston. If he shines in those games, then we're cooking with gas.
Yeah, definitely. No, I think it's definitely a great bet at 14 to 1. Think that Allen is taking up too much of this market, and at plus 400, my man Saquon is taking up too much of the market as well. I think, and I think that although I do think that Saquon now he is very live. It's just that I don't think he's 20% of the MVP market. So I think that Saquon and Allen equity should be redistributed to Lamar and Mahomes. All right, we are done for now. Don't forget to check out NBCSports.com for more information to help you with your wagers. Thanks for those watching on the NBC Sports YouTube channel. If you're listening to us in podcast form, don't forget to rate and subscribe. Also a reminder to find all your favorite NBC Sports shows on Amazon Music. Just head to amazon.com/NBC Sports. From myself and Drew, we'll see you soon.